Hey everybody, welcome to our quick mini hug on HubSpot datasets and reporting and the formula builder. We're trying out a new format for user groups, just something a little bit shorter and hopefully more digestible. But I did pick a fairly complicated topic for that, so we'll see how this goes. So I'm going to just start with sharing my little presentation here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the data sets and formulas in reporting, and then we're going to go inside HubSpot and take a look at some of these things kind of real-time live. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. Cody will do his best to answer them, or he will, hold on to them and we'll take a look at them in the last 15 minutes of the hug. So I'm hoping to get through all this in 15 minutes. Let's see how it goes. So datasets are a Data Hub Pro feature, which Operations Hub was recently renamed to Data Hub. So Operations Hub / Data Hub Pro feature. And a dataset is a foundation on which to create reports. So what it does is it limits the property and the data in your reports to only stuff that is kind of relevant to what you're reporting on. And it also allows you to add data based on formulas as different kind of things to use in your reports. So we'll take a look at this a little bit later. If you want more info and ideas on data sets, HubSpot earlier this year, maybe that was last year even, did an admin hug on data sets. So I have the link in the presentation. Cody will send that out. I do highly recommend that. When I first looked at data sets, I was like, this is confusing and I don't know what it does. But after going to this admin hug, I was like, oh, data sets are really cool and I want to start using them a lot more. So as an additional resource, I definitely recommend that. So some of the benefits of data sets are it can reduce clutter in the custom report builder, which makes it easier for some users to use. So like I mentioned before, it limits the data to only kind of relevant properties. So instead of having the left sidebar full of every single property imaginable on all of the record sources in your report, it's just only the ones that you include in your data set. Sometimes you have reports that have complicated filters and you want users to not break those. What you can do is you can filter the data at the data set level to ensure that your users just can't break them. And it reduces the need for custom calculation properties. So a lot of the things that you can do in data sets, you can also do with custom properties, but there is a limit to the number of custom calculation properties you can have. So if you're just reporting and need that calculation only for the report, datasets is a great way to do it. It also gives you access to today's date, which is something HubSpot has been getting better about, but they're still a little bit weird about that. They won't just give you today's date, but you can get that directly in datasets. And there are a few kind of reporting roadblocks that I've run into where I've noticed that datasets can kind of help me out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 3 use cases that I have come across. So one of them is activity points. And what this use case is you can assign a different amount of points to each activity type. So, we all know that it only takes a couple of minutes to send an email, but it takes kind of 30 minutes to an hour to be in a meeting. So a meeting is more FaceTime with a client than an email is. So when we look at it, if we're just looking at count of activities, 1 and 1, but we might want to weight meetings heavier. So the activity point setup is a use case for data sets where you can do things like that. Another use case is recent deals win rate by company. So we do have one client that does a lot of like small deals. So they'll have companies with hundreds of deals and they might want to see the win rate for a company, but not for deals like 60 deals ago. That's not relevant anymore. So something like, I want to know the win rate on our deals with a company, but only for the 10 most recent deals. Datasets can help you out with that one. And then also filter on associated objects with multiple records. I have an example of this one that we'll launch into in a couple of minutes. But my use case for that one is, let's say I want to know the recent engagement date for contacts who have had a closed lead. So something that's closed because it's gone cold, And they also don't currently have an open lead, so we're not currently working on them and prospecting them. That can be a little bit tricky to find with the filters in custom reports, or you'll have to create some lists to do that, which is list clutter. But Datasets can also get that to you. So one more little note on Datasets is the custom report builder and formula property beta. So Datasets is expensive, or Data Hub is expensive, and not a lot of people have it unless you're on customer platform. So the custom report formula builder beta is a really good workaround to gain some of this functionality. So you can opt in to get some of these functionalities and abilities through the products and updates section in your portal, like all other betas. And I will show you a little bit about that as well. So that is kind of everything I have to say about Datasets. Now we'll take a quick look at some Datasets. So that last example that I was talking about, which was open leads or contacts with a closed cold lead and don't have an open lead. So I just have a quick custom report pulled up here in the custom report builder, and I'm looking at count of contacts, and I want to see who has a closed lead, but also who has an open lead at the same time. So I have this property here that has qualified or disqualified in it if the lead is closed. And then I also want something with an open lead. So if I do, okay, one closed, one open, it's going to bring back my count of contacts as 0 because it's looking for a contact that has a singular lead that has both open state and closed state, which just can't happen. And then if I just switch this to an OR filter, now instead of getting contacts that have both states, I'm getting contacts that have one state or the other state. So literally all the contacts in my database. So with the kind of filter setup here, I can't really get that list of people who have both a closed lead and an open lead. So that's where Datasets comes in. And also, like I mentioned before, in this left sidebar here, I have literally all the properties on contacts and leads, all of them, which is a lot. And it might be a lot for users who are trying to use the custom report builder. So over here in my data set, I have it set up so that I only have kind of relevant properties. So I've got my contact first name. I've got my last engagement date so that I can report on who's engaged recently. And then I have this function that I created. And what it does is if a contact has an open lead, it says yes, they have an open lead. And then if the contact doesn't have an open lead but has a closed lead, it says no, they don't have an open lead. So that was done using the custom formula builder here. Basically, it uses this kind of complicated string of formulas. If you break it down, it's not so bad. I will try to break it down a little bit for you because this fixed formula here, I think, is really powerful and really good to at least be aware of. Even if what I explained doesn't make sense to you here, don't panic. I won't spend too long on it, and you can always ask me about it later or kind of noodle on it and work around a little bit. But I just want you to be aware it exists for now and kind of what it does so that, you know, if you have a spot where you think it might be useful, you at least know that that capability is there. So what the fixed function does is if you have something like a sum or a maximum or a count, anything that like aggregates or counts your data, right here when we're looking at count of contacts, it's doing it for all the contacts in this list, every single contact. What the fixed does is I can limit it to look at certain sections of that data. So maybe I want to only count, you know, contacts with a certain job title or based on job title. I can be like, how many CEOs do I have? If I fix that to the job title level, it'll show me how many CEOs I have. So I made a quick little Excel workbook that hopefully makes this a little bit clearer. So let's imagine I have a list of contacts, and this is our contact name. And then I have a list of leads associated with them. So we can see Lisa has 2 open leads and 3 closed leads. Then Cody, 4 open leads, April, no open leads. So if I do a sum of open leads without the fixed formula, it's going to look at all of the records, and it's going to give me back 6. There are 6 open leads total. And it's going to say that for everybody. Lisa has 6, Cody has 6, April has 6, just there are 6 total. But if I use the fixed formula, what it does is if I fix it to the contact, it looks at only Lisa's leads and subs only her leads. And then fixed at the contact level, looking at Cody, it only looks at Cody's leads and says he has 4. And then fixed at the April level, it looks at only April's leads and says she has 0. So that's what the fixed formula does. And it can be really useful when you're working with data sets. So hopefully that helped explain it and didn't just make it more confusing. But the gist of it is I use that fixed formula here to fix this. Do they have any leads at the contact level? So do they have an open lead at the contact level? So now I could build a custom report on my data set. So in the custom report builder, there's create your own and then the general select your kind of data sources, or start with a data set. And then I'm going to select my data set, open and closed leads, click next. And now I'm here in my report builder. So I can pop in my measures. And then over here on the filter tab, like I mentioned before, if you have really complicated filters on your data that you don't want your users to mess up, you can do it right on the data set level. So I made sure that leads name is known, and that's on the data set. I'll just show you that. Over here in filters. So instead of looking at literally all the contacts in the database, I only want to look at people whose leads are known. And I can put that right on the data set so that my users can't accidentally remove it and then get weird numbers. So I'm going to grab my data set field has open leads. That's the formula one that we made there. And I am going to do is equal to any of. Yes. So that's going to give me everybody who has an open lead. So it'll calculate to 143. And then if I go to no, that'll give me everybody who has a closed lead but doesn't have an open lead. So if we pop back to our first report, we can see that there are fewer. So people who have closed leads, 1,600. People who have closed leads and not open leads, we've got a few fewer because some of these people who have closed leads also have an open lead. So that's one little reporting hiccup that I have found datasets can sometimes help me out with. All right, I've got 2 minutes to get to the good stuff, which is the activity report tracker. So that's the other one that I wanted to show you because I think it's a really good use case. So I have this, which is your default HubSpot completed activities report in the sales reports. And we can see, look, Cody did 13 activities, Lisa did 12. Cody is obviously doing way more work than Lisa, right? Well, if we look at the activity types and kind of what we value them at, so using the activity points tracker, where I'm going to do something like assign 10 points to a call and 1 point to an email, we can pop over to this other report here and see, oh no, Lisa spent more time interfacing with clients because she's made more calls, whereas Cody has just made a lot of notes on things. So you can get kind of different information that way. So the way I did that was over here in my activity points data set, you can create new columns. So choose columns is where you can select kind of what columns you want to include from your regular data. And then create columns is where you can create a new one. So you've got formulas, modifiers, applying formatting changes, but formulas is great for things like comparing dates, create summarization. It's like your sums, your maximums, your oldest, your newest. Whoops, sorry. And build custom formula advanced. This is the one that I was showing you with the other data set. So just this big box that you can put your formula in. And you can build whatever you want. You can insert your functions here with the function library. You can insert HubSpot properties. You can build formulas upon formulas. So you can create a field in your data set, and then you can put that into your formula. So you can have them kind of layer on each other to get even more depth. So the one that we will look at is apply conditional logic, is what I use to create the activity points. So I can do, oh, I'm actually just going to go to the one that I've already done. Activity points. So if activity type equals call, then number of activity points is 10. So if activity points is email, then only 1 point. Then meetings get 20 as long as the meeting has been completed. So this is kind of a really easy user interface if you also want to adjust your activity points later. Maybe I decide 10 points is too much for calls. They're only worth 5 points. So I can save that and make that update. So that's how you can kind of use data sets and formulas in data sets to kind of create things. And today's date, I promised you that they had today's date in here. So if I just go to days since activity, I can go date difference, day, and then right here, today's date. You just have it fully today's date to do with whatever you please, no constraints. So it is in there somewhere, and it is kind of refreshing to be able to just use today's date when you want. So that's a quick look inside Datasets. And then this is the filter zone where you can add those filters to the datasets. So like I say, that I can use to make my activity points tracker here, which is very much just count of or sum of activity points rather than just count of number of activities based on the activity points that we set up and assigned over here in our data set. So that was a whirlwind tour. Oh, I wasn't supposed to stop sharing. That was a whirlwind tour on what Datasets is all about and some things that you can do with Datasets. So if anyone has any questions, definitely let me know in the chat. I actually can't see the chat with that screen up. But yeah, I'll just take a quick look, or Cody will shout any questions from the chat at me now.
Nothing yet, but if any of the folks on the call have any, a question can be as simple as, hey, I have an idea for how I would like to use data sets. You tell me if that's crazy or not.
Yeah.
And feel free, if you just want to say, I have a question, I can then just unmute you and you can speak out your question rather than having to type the entire use case into the chat.
Yeah, so one thing that I wanted to say is, like I mentioned, not a lot of people have, oh, the custom formula builder. I said I was going to show you that, and I didn't. So I better show you that quickly while I can. So basically over here, this is the custom formula builder.
Showing the presentation, Lisa.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't on screen.
There you go.
Right, so I also said I'd show you the custom formula builder just in case you don't have Operations Hub Pro and you want to do some cool stuff like this. So I've opted into the custom formula builder. So it shows up in the custom report builder under formula fields beta here at the bottom. And basically you can click create formula. And then now you have access to that same formula builder that I was showing you in the data set with all your fields and all your same functions. So we can do the same thing as the activity points tracker formula that I was showing you, or the builder in the data set. So if I do if, and then I'm going to insert activity type, okay, equals call, then give it 5 points, otherwise 0 points. And then this is just going to be a quick little preview down here. So I can see everything that isn't call, 0 points. Call, 5 points. So if I click create formula, oh, I should have renamed the field. Yeah, so now I have the formula field down here. I can put it into kind of different sections of my report. So if we wanted to do it based on that formula one, it'll recalculate to a different report that only waits calls. But that is basically how you can use, oh, sorry, it's still down here in fields. But basically that's how you can use this formula fields to get a lot of the functionality of data sets, is just by making quick little formulas in here, and then you can pull them into your reports where you need them.
The downside being, or the only reason you wouldn't, is that because then you would have to create that formula every time you wanted to use it in a report, whereas a data set allows you to do that work once and use it in many places. And also, Tori has a quick question. You can probably see it in the chat now that you're not sharing, but very cool, thank you. One thing we're always looking for is distance calculations, like who are the 5 closest companies to a new lead using latitude and longitude.
That is very interesting. I'm not super well versed in latitude and longitude and like how you would find the distance and use that. But if you do have data for latitude and longitude, and it's something like a straight subtraction of this is our latitude and longitude, this is their latitude and longitude, we just need to do some math with these two sets of numbers to find out our distance to them, then yes, I do think you could absolutely do that with data sets. Kind of math and comparing numbers is one of the great things you can do with it. So yeah, either data sets or the custom formula builder, I am fairly confident that you can do that with it. When Cody sends out the email, if you have data on this, so I'm always looking for places to use data sets and custom formulas. I don't have a lot of experience with it because it's fairly niche, it's fairly new, not a lot of people know about it, so I try to cram it in where I can. So if you want to, oh, yes, I will do that in just a moment. So Tori, if you want to send me a quick email, you'll have my contact information from the slideshow about that. I would love to, you know, get my hands on it or do a little experiment just to see how it works so I can get that experience. So Austin, the formula beta wouldn't narrow down the entire data set. That's basically something that if you don't have access to Operations Hub Pro or Data Hub Pro, you can use to get some of the functionality. So if you were like, hey, I like that activity points thing, I want to be able to weight my activities based on what type of activity it is, you could create that in the formula field beta if you don't have access to data sets. And then you can create the formula in a report and then you can use it. But it's going to be basically the custom report builder that you already know, but with an extra field.
So to follow up on Austin's question real quick, but if you did, if I set up a data set that was pre-filtered to say, show me all people in Wisconsin, and I was only building a report off that data set, and then I put a formula field in that report based on that data set, do you know off the top of your head whether that formula would only work on the subset of data being captured in the data set?
Yes. Yeah. Like if you're filtering out data in your data set, like filtering on the data level, basically any reports you build on that data set, pretend the rest of your database doesn't exist. It's just not available to be looked at.
Okay. So for your purposes, Austin, I'm thinking like, so if you were to, you could build a formula field in a standard report, and then it would just filter the entire database. But if you then if you started by building a data set, built a report based on the data set, and then built a one-time formula on that report, yeah, the formula field would just be applying to that subset that you're using in that report.
Yeah, I hope that helps and makes sense. I'm just setting up a bit of an example here.
Correct, Austin. Absolutely. That's the way to think about a formula field, is that it is basically a one use thing for that specific report, whereas a data set is a permanent subset or set of functions and filters that you could then use in multiple reports. So it's a question of, hey, am I only ever going to need to do this once, or is filtering by all my people in Wisconsin something that I'm going to have to do repeatedly?
And then, yeah, I see Tori. The math involves sine, cosine, radians. I do strongly suspect that those are not formulas that HubSpot supports. Yeah, that would probably sink you there. Yeah, I'm not seeing in the list of formulas sine, cosine, or anything like that. My only like workaround that I would think is there any way that you could possibly convert that into data that could be manipulated? Probably not. Yeah, into something more digestible, or like reports, numbers that HubSpot can actually manage. But yeah, I strongly suspect not.
And I will say, Tori, yeah, distance has always been a bugaboo of HubSpot. Like, so I worked in the agriculture space a lot, and people routinely wanted to be able to say, hey, can we do geography based on dropping stakes in the ground and then routing based on routing ownership of deals or leads or prospects based on that. And it really does suck that even when something as simple as like zip or postal codes, you know, maintaining a database of that so you can route people based on matching zip or postal or distance from certain zip or postal codes is a pain. It's unfortunately, it's just, yeah, that digital real world interface just hasn't hit HubSpot super well yet. And my suspicion is that mostly because they set up to support kind of software and services companies, thinking that, you know, selling real physical products to people in a real physical world, it's just never been their core competency.
Oh, if else. Yes, I do think if else is, sorry, I'm just looking for the right tab here. So you can do if else, I believe, in the actual, like the full formula builder, the custom formula builder, or the one that I was showing you for the activity tracker, the kind of guided if statement, also has the if else. So if then that, so if activity type is called, then number is 5. And then I can add even more if statements onto this. But at the bottom, there's the else statement. So otherwise, number equals null. It looks like I can add multiple ifs, and then the else is just down here. So I could do otherwise minus 100 value if I wanted, but for this example, I just use null. So yeah, if else, definitely available there. Or also, if we go to the custom formula builder function, I don't see else in there, but it could just be I'm typing it wrong.
All right.
All right, well, that is 30 minutes, and thank you so much for letting me talk about data sets and for all your great questions. I really loved how engaged you guys were. So amazing. Thank you so much.
And like I say, I will likely, Lisa is not on LinkedIn, but you guys will likely receive some in LinkedIn connection requests from me. Again, like she said, super interesting questions. So I just want to open the door. If you guys have any more, we're always happy to, noodle on stuff. So thanks again. Hopefully talk soon, gang.